People are convinced that Bitcoin is in a bear market. The world's largest bank just published a letter claiming Bitcoin has officially bottomed. But it's not just a $3.7 trillion giant. We also have Bernstein making some interesting comments around Bitcoin's price. But the real question is, what do they really know about Bitcoin that we don't? Again, I've been telling you guys for a while, is Bitcoin being driven by the institutions, and are we really just a tail on the dog here? Because that's probably the big question for everyone. All right, guys, let's get into the snooze for today. Of course, I am not alone. I got KONRAD, the community manager of Bitcoinwell. So we are going to be talking about Bitcoinwell features in the culture later on today, but let's dive into the source material real quick. So this is coming from CoinDesk. I did fact check this, but I do like the article from CoinDesk because it lays out a lot of the topics that JP Morgan was saying. Though, to be clear, it wasn't Jamie Dimon officially saying that the Bitcoin bear market, or rather that Bitcoin bottomed at 80K, but it's one of his analysts. And so you can just infer that they're not saying anything that Jamie Dimon doesn't really co-sign here. So here's the headline. It is going into what I've been saying for a while. One of the key areas that we should probably be watching since the ETF was launched was the inflows to the ETF. This is kind of what's driving a lot of the price action. Yes, there's leverage traders. Yes, there's spot Bitcoin, but most of the bulk of the capital is coming through the ETFs. Now, you could argue that they might be buying paper Bitcoin and not actually buying real Bitcoin, but from all the data, all the on-chain data we've been seeing, they are actually buying all of this Bitcoin. So here's the headline. JP Morgan says the crypto sell-off may be nearing a bottom as ETF outflows ease. Flow and positioning data suggests the recent crypto market correction may be running out of steam, with early signs of stabilization across ETFs and derivatives. Now, I did bring up, CoinGlass ETF inflow outflows, and the data might be saying something a little different, so we will chat about that a little bit. But here we go. Again, they're saying the sell-off might be over. It does seem like it might be over, though. We did get a couple corrections the last 2 days, but I'm still feeling bullish, guys. I'm still feeling bullish here. So it's saying that the Bitcoin markets may be nearing a bottom, again, with flow and positioning indicators pointing to stabilization after a heavy de-risking late last year. Quote, signs of a bottoming out in January are also seen in other crypto indicators in perpetual futures and in our position proxies on CME futures. Now, for you guys that are watching the futures market, we did close the 90K gap yesterday. So if that is telling us anything, it might be time for liftoff. So they might not be too wrong here. But of course, the real question, like I said, is do they really know what's going on? Part of me says yes. The other part of me is like, you guys just got in Bitcoin last year. Like, sit back and let the Bitcoiners kind of take this. But again, we were all wrong last year. Every one of our predictions was wrong last year. So it's hard to say who's actually right here. But anyways, going on, the correction has coincided with heavier volatility, ETF outflows, and a broader cooling in risk appetite across global markets, leaving, of course, Bitcoin range-bound after last year's rally. Now, I think this is essentially what's been going on. I have been saying for a while, the macro factors, the macro indicators right now are kind of a little uncertain. They are starting to feel a little bullish. We did get a lot of headwinds last year, but as of now, things are kind of cooling off a little bit. There's still some uncertainty in the markets of what is actually going on, which is what we try to do, is try to give you guys as much signal through the noise as possible, or hopefully acknowledge that maybe we have a good vantage point and we can see the signal through the noise. But, who really knows? However, the analyst noted that the ETF data so far in January suggests selling pressure is easing, with flows into Bitcoin beginning to stabilize. Again, they're seeing similar signs of bottoming in perpetual futures and its position proxies at the CME futures, indicating that both retail and institutional investors may have largely completed the position reductions that dominated the final quarter of 2025. And they go on to say that potentially the MSCI's decision to not kick out strategy, it's probably a bullish factor in where Bitcoin is going towards the end of the year. Now, of course, there's all this idea, or rather concern, or rather talk about what's going on in liquidity. If you're looking at on-chain data right now, if you're trying to make Bitcoin transaction, the blockchain is like absolutely dead. There's like no interest on the base layer right now. There is a lot of interest in the ETFs. Also, last year, I actually saw an interesting tweet this morning essentially saying, and I've said this on the show before, that the kind of bubble we saw in the Bitcoin treasury markets may be what protects us from the downside in a Bitcoin bear market. It seems like a lot of the fervor, the FOMO happened in the Bitcoin treasuries and in all of the stocks. And this is why we saw them kind of, have their blow off top moments and come down and retrace. And I saw someone essentially arguing that probably protected Bitcoin from having this blow off top. Or put another way, they probably took all the action away from spot Bitcoin because people weren't buying spot Bitcoin. They just got excited buying these treasury stonks. And hey, this could be a slightly better scenario moving into 2026. But like I said, I am going to show you the kind of current spot Bitcoin inflows. Here I am on CoinGlass. You can see here is the total Bitcoin spot ETF net inflows. And though they are kind of cooling off, not as much or rather as deep outflows, the inflows are still not that positive. Yes, there's some green on the chart, a little more green than red, but you can see the last couple of days, we did get some net outflows, which you could argue is these institutional interest in Bitcoin is kind of waning a little bit. But what could be the kind of answers to this or the reasons to this? I think a lot of people were essentially saying we saw a lot of the sell-off towards the end of the year because of all the different, tax liabilities, people selling out, securing some gains, realizing, hey, I might have a tax bill going into 2026, or rather more of a kind of trade reordering as we go into 2026. So that's the initial takedown from JP Morgan. They're saying essentially what other analysts have been saying, that Bitcoin probably bottomed out. I've been kind of on the fence of saying, yes, I also believe it's bottomed out. Nico's been saying, hey, we're in a bear market. So I think pretty soon we will see who is right in this idea of whether Bitcoin 4-year cycle is in, whether 2026 is going to be a negative year, or rather whether the institutions kind of fabricated this recent drop down to 80K, launch all these products, and now they're ready to send it. So KONRAD, before I move on to Bernstein's view on this exact same idea that Bitcoin bottomed out, do you hold any weight in JP Morgan's analyst talking about Bitcoin current price action?
Opti, thank you very much for having me. And here's why I do. Here's why I love this article. I'm a class of 2017 Bitcoiner. I remember when JP Morgan's CEO Jamie Dimon and all the other Wall Street CEOs were just poo-pooing on Bitcoin. Bitcoin to them was a joke. And now like Bitcoiners are the ones that are laughing because we realize that we've realized this and we've known this. Wall Street is slow to the game. They're playing catch up, and now they're talking about Bitcoin bottoming at 80K. I remember when Bitcoin was rat poison. So like Bitcoin is going to be setting it. This whole 80K slowdown, I think you're right on that. Then I think there was some quick gains to be captured, especially by a lot of new institutional folks. And then the tail end of the year, that further drawdown in price could just been some simple tax loss harvesting. I think overall we're seeing gold and silver pumping. People know that fiat is doomed, and people are looking for an exit. People are still learning that Bitcoin is the ultimate exit for that. So yeah, 80K sounding like a bottom. That sounds great to me.
Yeah, I'm totally okay with 80K being the bottom, not only because of, the current price action, but I'm really getting excited at taking my victory lap here, being fully vindicated, because me and Nico have been arguing on the show for the last 2 to 3 months, ever since October, whether we're in a bear market, whether it's a 4-year cycle. And I keep trolling. I'm like, dude, I'm starting to warm up for my victory lap here because I think I'm right here. I actually drew some funny lines this morning with Luke, and it was just like, it's hooking up. I'm like, here's my new line. I'm like, we're going to 101 ASAP. But I was trolling, guys. This is not financial advice. I am not your trading quant here. I'm not your TA guru. I just draw magic lines to kind of troll half the time. All right, so let's go into the other analysts essentially saying the same exact thing. This is coming from Bernstein. Obviously, they're not as big as JP Morgan is, though they have been pretty bullish on Bitcoin all of last year. They hold about, I think it's $820 billion of assets under management. So a little under 1 trillion, doesn't really compare to the 3.7 trillion that is JP Morgan. Put another way, the words coming out of Bernstein do not hold the same weight that they do coming out of Jamie Dimon. But as you guys know, I believe the science when it confirms my bias. So, hey, I like anyone calling that the Bitcoin price has bottomed out. This is from Yahoo Finance, and it goes, Bitcoin and broader crypto markets have, quote, bottomed out, Bernstein analysts say. Though they do kind of take a slightly different view. It's not necessarily what's going on with ETF inflows and outflows. Theirs is, slightly different, but it's essentially the same thing. So, quote, we believe with reasonable confidence, again, reasonable confidence, that Bitcoin and the broader digital asset markets have bottomed, the team wrote on Tuesday, pointing to the 80K price in late November as the bottom. Obviously, the kind of trending we've seen between this 90, 80K, I would argue it's pretty healthy right now, and it is kind of holding up to the pattern we've seen since the ETFs have launched. Again, I got a couple of days, maybe a couple of weeks until I'm fully convinced that we are going to make another leg up. Currently, I'm not as bullish as I was on Monday. I'm like, man, the last 2 days is making me feel like we might be in for a drop, but this does feel different than 2021. Anyways, they go further and it goes, concerns that the October high of 126 marked the peak in a historical 4-year cycle for the token was overstated, essentially saying that the digital asset revolution is here and that this is going to extend the bull run because of the institutional kind of interest in Bitcoin, which I think is really what is going on. Again, what do I know compared to anyone else? I'm just looking at the same data that you guys are, but this does feel to be the case. Anyways, last quote, as we have highlighted earlier, we believe the market concern on the 4-year cycle pattern is unwarranted in the current market context where institutional demand is driving adoption, which is literally the exact same thing that JP Morgan said, though they took it a little different. They're like, watch the ETF inflows, which is essentially saying, hey, the institutions are driving the price right now. Whatever Wall Street does, they're the ones making the ripples right now. They're the ones really driving Bitcoin. And as I've been saying, look, retail hasn't been in Bitcoin for, I would argue, probably since 2021. Now, I know a lot of Bitcoiners in the chat, they're always like, but bro, we are retail. And I'm like, yeah, but I would argue we're a slightly different category than just retail off the street getting into Bitcoin. The only people that have been in Bitcoin for the last, I would argue a couple of years are the real true believers of Bitcoin. And if you're like me right now, you're like, I literally have no more cash. It's like the meme. I bought the last dip. I bought every dip. And it keeps dipping. Like, when are we going to get some action here? Because I'm all out of fiat. So if all Bitcoiners are in the same place where we really just have like pennies to get into Bitcoin, we're just waiting for either one, more institutional capital to flow into Bitcoin, or two, a new cohort of Bitcoiners coming in, a new kind of FOMO wave of retail getting excited about freedom money, about the gains, or whatever really catches their attention. And as of now, again, looking at the on-chain data, like, I don't know if you guys are not consolidating Bitcoin, if you're not a part of the circular Bitcoin economy, but the fees have been pretty much non-existent. Like, you can make transactions right now for like 1 sat. And I know we had the whole ordinals, NFT rage, and we were all playing crazy sats. And it was like, oh, Bitcoin's dead because of spam. Bro, like, is the spam in the room with us right now? Because like no one is using Bitcoin currently, which really does bring up the kind of the view of like, are these institutions, are these ETFs even buying Bitcoin? Because where is it coming from? Though you could very easily kind of, logically say that they're probably getting it from OTC desks and stuff like that. So it's not necessarily hitting the blockchain, but I really do believe they are capturing all the Bitcoin they claim to be. So look, it's not just JP Morgan saying the bottom is in. It's not just Opti saying the bottom is in. We have Bernstein also saying the bottom is in. And I really do believe that one of the bigger indicators that isn't necessarily saying the Bitcoin bottom is in. It's just the fact that all these Wall Street products have been launched. JP Morgan came out, created a strategy copycat. We have Bank of America saying, hey, you guys need to invest 1 to 4% of your portfolios into Bitcoin. We have Morgan Stanley filing for an ETF. BlackRock, of course, has been in Bitcoin for a long time now. Like, essentially all of the big banks, and I know we're here to separate money from state. I know we're here to basically buck the banks, but now all the banks are trying to position themselves to get into Bitcoin. And this has been basically my thesis for why I think 2026 is going to be different. Is we're really getting more demand than the Bitcoin that's being sold, that is being released on the blockchain. It's like the demand is starting to build up. It is coming. It's slowly but surely trickling into Bitcoin. And I think if this narrative continues to shift, if we get all of these analysts from these big banks to start shilling Bitcoin, or even just putting 1 to 4% of their portfolios into Bitcoin, that is a lot more capital than it just sounds on a percentage basis. Like, that is a significant amount of money coming into the Bitcoin ecosystem. And then you add on top of that, I don't know if you guys just saw, but Trump basically announced that, yeah, we're going to print even more money so that we can expand the, defense contract spending. Every sign is showing the same thing. They're going to expand liquidity. It is coming. 2026, they're going to run the economy extremely hot. And that's just talking about the US. Everywhere around the world right now is talking about injecting liquidity into the system. Again, it doesn't necessarily mean A plus B equals C, but with more liquidity coming into the system, it's going to lead more people into hard assets, which is just like very simple, 42 IQ take of what's going on. They print more money. People look for ways to secure their wealth. And the only way to do that is to get in assets they can't print. So that's kind of my basic view on all this. But again, Conrad, how much weight do you hold in these Wall Street analysts? Do you think they have, I don't know, backroom conversations? It's like Saylor. Saylor didn't seem panicked at all when strategy was crashing. It's because he was having these conversations with JP Morgan and Morgan Stanley. And he's like, bro, I'm good. I know what's coming down the pipeline. And this is kind of the sense I'm getting from these Wall Street analysts. They're kind of trickling out the hopium. But I think it's based on a lot of the conversations behind the scenes that they can't actually talk about right now. So would you say that that's a decent kind of view of where we are right now?
Yeah, I think the banks are starting to realize that there isn't much more room for us to fall down. And Opti, you touched on this earlier, like when you were mentioning that the Fourier cycle might be dead. What was, in my opinion, driving the Fourier cycle in the past was huge sell-offs coming from miners. But after another halving and those previous sell-offs, miners don't have that same accumulation of Bitcoin that they need to get rid of. And where's a lot of the Bitcoin purchasing being happening lately? Yeah, you've mentioned it. These ETFs, these corporate treasuries. These corporate treasuries aren't going to be letting go of their Bitcoin anytime soon. They're not kind of like a miner that needs to liquidate to kind of maintain their operations. These are debt finance, basically insulated from the company's operations. So we have a lot more protection on the downside. The demand is going to be kind of staying solid, while we're not going to have this huge inflow of supply of Bitcoin being sold on the market. So things are looking good. That the fundamentals are lining up, and I think the bankers are probably seeing the momentum start to shift, and they're starting to notify their customers about that.
Yeah, 100%. And also, not only just seeing the momentum shift, I think they're one of the main drivers of the momentum shifting. That was kind of one of the I don't know, heuristics I had for last year, that seeing all of these extremely influential Wall Street managers and banks come into Bitcoin, I was kind of at loss last year where I'm like, look, everyone is kind of embracing Bitcoin right now. How come we're not seeing Main Street start to FOMO into Bitcoin? And from a Bitcoiner's perspective, it's very obvious why. It's like we slay your heroes. We don't care what the authority figures say. But also, you would think that the average person that does listen to maybe their Charles Schwab advisor would be like, yeah, maybe I need to buy some Bitcoin. But you can tell there's still a lot of friction between what the asset managers are saying and what kind of mainstream like investors believe in Bitcoin. We still kind of have this idea of like, oh, yeah, you're kind of embracing Bitcoin, but I really don't want to touch Bitcoin. It's like, maybe I'll just go and do the gold trade because I'm a little more familiar with it. And now we're starting to see that it's like an army of Wall Street analysts being like, yeah, you should probably buy some Bitcoin right now. And people are still kind of fighting it. I was telling a story of one of my friends. He actually works at Morgan Stanley, and he's like an analyst himself. And over the holiday breaks, he was still kind of fighting the idea that the banks were embracing Bitcoin. And I'm like, dude, like, what are you talking about? Like, literally every bank is embracing Bitcoin at this point. And then the first week of 2026, the bank he's working at, it's like, yeah, we're going to file an ETF here. And I haven't hit him up yet, guys. So, but yeah, I think it's one of these things of, changing people's minds doesn't happen overnight. And especially from an institutional level, they takes forever for them to like make moves. And even though we're seeing the pressure of institutions start to embrace Bitcoin, they're trying to move quicker to get into Bitcoin. I think these things do happen as the meme goes, gradually then suddenly. And we're still currently in that gradually moment. And I think the other question is like, at what point do people start to FOMO into Bitcoin? At like what price point do people start to look at Bitcoin and be like, oh, I really need to buy this? Because we all know, retail normies, you chase the Bitcoin price. I did it when I first started. I'm like, yo, this is at like 10K. It's going up forever. I need to really buy this. And then it goes to 20 and you're like, I really need to buy this. And then that was the top, and you have to learn what you're holding on to. So,
and the price gains solidify Bitcoin scarcity. Like right now we're seeing gold and silver pump. We know that gold and silver, there's going to be more of it being mined because the price of it has gone up. So the more expensive to mine gold and silver is now going to be profitable. That can't happen with Bitcoin, and the banks have to be realizing this, that not only is Bitcoin in a lot of time frames the fastest horse, but Bitcoin is also the strongest horse because it can carry the most capital without sacrificing its scarcity element. Like Bitcoin is the only asset ever that has a perfectly inelastic supply curve. Fancy economics speak basically means that no matter how much the price of this increases, we cannot increase the supply. The supply is what it is. It's 21 million, slowly leaked out on a decreasing schedule with halvings every 4 years. That cannot be tricked, and that's new to bankers. Bankers are completely unfamiliar with this. So as they're starting to wrap their head around it, they're realizing that it's flipping their whole world upside down. And the ones that do realize this probably have to, for the sake of keeping their jobs and respect of their peers, are probably being a little bit quiet about it. They're not trying to stir the pot too much. But the ones that are getting it are like leaving banking and moving into crypto, or Bitcoin specifically, because they realize that Bitcoin is the future. Bitcoin is unstoppable, perfectly scarce. It is perfect money encoded for us to use. And there's no other better horse than Bitcoin. And they're realizing that.
yeah, no, I love that you said that, because I keep saying that on the show. I've noticed a trend, not just in our chat, but amongst Bitcoiners on Twitter as well, is that there was always this trend for a while, and I'm also a 2017 Bitcoiner, but there was always this trend or this kind of meme or rhetoric that like, oh, the bankers don't know what Bitcoin is, bro. Like, they're stupid. They don't understand this thing. And for a while there, I like kind of believed it. And in the last recent years, I'm like, guys, they know exactly what this is, but they just can't actually go out there and be like, yeah, you need to buy a bunch of this. So I agree with you. I think on the back end, they're probably acquiring some Bitcoin, but publicly, they can't really be full blown, Bitcoin evangelists yet until all of these pieces are in place, until all of the regulation is in place, until, essentially it is no longer career suicide to embrace Bitcoin. It's the opposite. It's like, if you're not shilling Bitcoin at a certain point, like, why are people going to trust you? We're still kind of in that beginning phase where people are like tentatively embracing Bitcoin. They don't fully love it, but they also are like bending the knee and begrudgingly talking about Bitcoin. And then at a certain point, we're just going to get a tsunami of all of the big guys being like, see, I told you guys, Bitcoin is the greatest invention ever. It's the best asset the last 17 years. You need to buy this. You need to sell your house. What's sell your chairs. Like, why are you in a chair? You need to be buying Bitcoin. We aren't there yet, but it's going to happen at some point. I'm fully convinced it's going to happen. But hey, we might be waiting around a lot longer than we thought we were, as 2025 was a perfect example of. So that's kind of where I'm at right now, but we'll see. We'll see who's right eventually.
And one of the things too is like, I think the bankers are in a bit of a position because the more you understand Bitcoin, and I had this realization as I was like really getting Bitcoin for the first time, it's like, this is so antithetical to what banking is. Like, banking is an industry that is required because people can't be trusted to transact with one another, and we have a third party transactor problem. But also at the same time, we have this investment industry that's basically subsidized by the government by necessitating inflation. So the only real reason everyone needs to speculate on these risky financial assets is because we're forced to have inflation, which gives the bankers extra business. But Bitcoin kind of flips all that upside down, because you can be your own bank for free. You can transact your own currency for free and with a higher security than using a bank. And at the same time, this asset has scarcity built into it. So you're also outpacing the inflation that kind of necessitates this previous investment industry to exist. So as an investment banker running reports, I would be like, oh my God, this kind of replaces the need for my company to exist. Bitcoin does it's a full stack investment banking and consumer banking service. There's not really much need to be a banker anymore once everyone embraces Bitcoin.
Yeah, it's literally an existential crisis for them. They're like, look, it's here, it's not going away, but I don't really want to embrace it too much because my paycheck depends on it, but I also have to kind of embrace it, or I'm, not adapting to the time. So I would totally agree with that perspective, Conrad, 100%. All right, guys, before we keep moving, we have a great show for you guys. So look, Elon Musk came out a couple of days ago. He seems to be coming around on Bitcoin, or at the very least, he understands what is going on here. And then in the news, I got an update about the U.S. Marshals selling the Samourai Wallet Devs Bitcoin. They actually responded to this, so it's getting a little spicy over there. I'm surprised the U.S. Marshals even know what Bitcoin Magazine is. And then in the culture, we're going to be talking with Conrad, all the great features from Bitcoinwell, but actually Conrad's going to make a special PSA. It's the beginning of the year on why you need to DCA Bitcoin, obviously with Bitcoinwell. So that's the layout for today's show. One quick commercial break and we will be right back.
Today's episode is brought to you by Bitcoinwell Infinite. If you're a serious Bitcoin buyer, you've probably hit the same wall. Most platforms make you give up custody just to play by the rules. Bitcoinwell Infinite fixes that. They're North America's only publicly traded, non-custodial OTC desk listed on the TSX Venture Exchange, which means transparent operations and zero counterparty risk.
You buy Bitcoin, you take immediate control, period. For trades over $50,000, you get a dedicated executive Bitcoin advisor, competitive spread starting at 1%, and immediate delivery straight to your own wallet. No custody risk, no withdrawal fees, just institutional grade execution with full asset control. If you want to buy Bitcoin the right way, book a free consultation at bitcoinwell.com/OTC or email infinite@bitcoinwell.com.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, Stampseed. Is your Bitcoin in cold storage really secure? Are your seed phrases really secure? Stampseed's do-it-yourself kit has everything you'll need for you to hammer your seed words into commercial-grade titanium plates. Instead of just writing them down on paper, paper is fragile. Titanium plates are strong. Your words are actually stamped into the titanium plate with this hammer and these letter stamping tools. Once the words are in, they aren't going anywhere. No risk of the plate breaking apart and pieces falling everywhere. Titanium stamp seeds will survive nearly triple the heat produced by a house fire. They're also crush-proof, waterproof, non-corrosive, and time-proof. And now you can customize your titanium seed plates. You can upload your design or logo and they will laser engrave it on the back of your seed plate, the opposite side of where the words are. Stamp your seed on Stampseed and use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on the stampseed.com store.
Hey, yo, guys, the chat is wilding today. Yeah, they say I'm you guys are saying I'm an op. No, I'm just very low IQ. Okay, all right. That's the secret here, guys. Let me let you in on the secret. I'm kind of regarded. Okay. Anyways, we're over here on Clark Moody's dashboard. The current Bitcoin price is $91,170, which is a 27.7% discount from all-time high. The market cap is bubbling a little bit. We're still struggling under 2 trillion. It's currently at $1.82 trillion, and the block height is 931,448. I repeat, 931,448. So hey, Bitcoin price isn't going up, but block height sure is going up. So Bitcoin's working exactly as designed. Anyways, as I said, Elon Musk was on this podcast. And if you know anything about the Elon Musk saga, for a while there, it seemed like he fully understood Bitcoin, and then he kind of was trolling and went all in on Dogecoin. And I think still to this day, you can buy Tesla with Doge, which would be like, I don't even know how many Doge to buy a Tesla right now, but he does have that main saga of a few years ago. He's like, look, we're going to sell some Bitcoin until Bitcoin is 51% green. We got that 51% green number, and still crickets from Elon. Though in the last couple of weeks, we have seen Elon Musk's narrative shift around Bitcoin, or rather, he's kind of saying things that sound like he understands Bitcoin without actually saying Bitcoin. And this is one of those moments. If you didn't know any better, you'd think he was talking about Bitcoin specifically. But since it's Elon, you're kind of wondering, like, is he talking about Bitcoin or is he talking about his shitcoin? Like, what's going on here? But he gets the basis of the conversation. So let's play this short clip, and then we're going to chat on whether Elon Musk gets Bitcoin. Did he get the call? Did Elon finally get the call to embrace Bitcoin, or is he just still out here trolling? Because this sounds like a Bitcoiner meme right here, but he doesn't say the B word yet. So check this out.
Yeah, I think the future currency will essentially just be wattage.
Yeah, I was thinking, is the ability of a person to control energy and compute, or just energy? I mean, the two two translate, obviously.
Just like harnessed energy.
Yeah.
Like so, or like basically how much power is being turned into work of some kind.
Right.
Intelligence or matter manipulation.
Bros, he like literally almost said the soft man, I'm blanking on his name. Is it Kevin Lowry? I think it's the software thesis. Like, whoever can control the most Bitcoin miners will be the leaders of the new world. Bitcoin is energy money. Now, again, if you listen to this on its surface from a Bitcoiner's perspective, you're like, he's obviously talking about Bitcoin. It's like Bitcoin is energy money. You literally plug in ASICs, you plug in miners, you use energy, and it spits out Bitcoin. It's like the only legal money printer for us plebs out here. But when it comes from Elon, it makes you wonder. It's like, did he? Yeah, I've been joking that he finally got the call to embrace Bitcoin from whoever his boss is, basically. But since it's from Elon, you're like, dude, is he talking about there's going to be like a new shit coin, a new Bitcoin as energy money? It's going to be what? Money sign energy on the exchanges, and like, this is the real currency of the future. I don't know, but from a very simple view of this, is like, he's obviously talking about Bitcoin. Like, it couldn't be any more obvious, but
Definitely not Dogecoin.
it's definitely not Dogecoin. Exactly. I mean, I haven't looked at Dogecoin's hash rate recently, but I'm going to venture to guess it's nowhere near Bitcoin. So it's nowhere near harnessing the most amount of energy to convert it into a currency or into a money. So I don't know, man. Elon Musk, he's an interesting character, to say the least. I know the chat doesn't necessarily like him. I'm a little skeptical of Elon Musk per se, but he's talking about Bitcoin. It's very obvious this is about Bitcoin, but also coming from him, it might not be. I don't know. Maybe he's going to show another shitcoin. So, Conrad, what's your take on Elon Musk? Wait, first of all, what's your take on just the energy currency aspect of this, and whether you think Elon Musk is going to finally come around in 2026 to embrace Bitcoin?
Great question, Opti. So I'll start this off with a little bit of a story, because I am a huge econ nerd, and when I visit the United States, most people probably think about going to, I don't know, cool places, cool sites. I go to visit the Federal Reserve. I know it's super lame, but what's really cool about visiting the Federal Reserve is they have different generations of dollar bills stamped on the ceiling and in frames. And what you're able to see there is the different wordage on the notes. And if you look at today's currency, it says like this is legal tender, which as Bitcoiners know means absolutely nothing. But if you look at the older bills before 1934, it says this is fully backed and redeemable in gold. So what that meant was your dollar was literally backed by gold. So it was just a convenient mechanism to move gold around and denominate gold. And what you could do is take your $25 into any bank and say, I want my gold, and they will give you your gold in return. Bitcoin isn't going to really Bitcoin isn't backed by energy because energy isn't priced the same way that commodities are. Commodities have a uniform price all globally. Like the price of gold in Toronto versus the price of gold in New York, it's the same price. But the price of energy across regions varies dramatically. And that's not really the greatest way, in my opinion, to view Bitcoin as being backed by energy. I would argue that more that the Bitcoin is like energy is kind of like the ticket to play the Bitcoin mining game where you can earn money. So I would say Bitcoin is more constrained by energy, not backed by energy, because it's not fully redeemable for energy. Granted, yes, you could buy energy with it, but it doesn't have like a standardized energy wattage associated with an amount of Satoshis, for example.
Got it. I love that. That's actually a great take. Well, I've been saying for a while, we're going to get to the Petrosat soon enough. So maybe we'll get to, I don't even know how you'd say in terms of joules, but we'll get to the point where joules are priced in sats as well. So maybe that's just the long-term future from here, but hey, there's a chance, boys. There's still hope here. There's still some hope here. We actually have the pretty good comment here. It goes, New Jersey Ben goes, he's talking about any company that can make or supply power to feed everything AI. Honestly, I think that's a really good take, especially with the fact that he recently just said like the craziest thing I've ever heard in my life, that you shouldn't save money because AI is going to make us more, what do you say? It's going to make us more profitable. We're going to have more leisure time. Everything's going to be more abundant. So you don't even need money. So that actually might be a good take. He's just talking about AI companies at this point. Obviously, he loves his grok. So that might be that could be a very good take on what his actual stance is on this. But I don't know. I'm still convinced Elon got the call. He's going to start embracing Bitcoin soon. I'm seeing the signs. It's going to happen. He's going to go full Bitcoin. He's going to go Bitcoin and Doge again.
He came so close, right? Like I remember in 2020, I was like stoked. Like Saylor was stacking Bitcoin, and Saylor was like, "I get Bitcoin," and just preaching it. And everyone is like, "Yes, this is like so succinct, so well put." And then Elon comes on, seeming to echo that, stacking with Tesla, and everyone's like, "Okay." Like I remember the end of 2020, it was like, "This is like corporate adoption." This was like the hope that we had in 2017 that the institutions were going to come, and when they come, they're going to pour in the same way that retail did, and they were starting to. And then Elon started talking about Doge. Then we had the DeFi and NFTs, and it seemed like that whole momentum gain during that market just fizzled out into kind of just shitcoinery, and that was disappointing to see. So if Elon Musk is really serious about Bitcoin, I would love to hear him actually mention Bitcoin and like denounce Doge or anything like that. Elon, if you're serious about Bitcoin, say Bitcoin and actually talk about it. I'd love to see that.
Yeah. Well, unbeknownst to me, a lot of people really don't like Elon. I just am critical of a lot of the narratives, but Elon does get a lot of hate. And look, I've driven a Tesla. They're pretty fucking cool cars, whether you believe space is real or not. Those SpaceX edits are freaking amazing. Like the fact that he bought Twitter and allowed some more semblance of free speech on it. Like, whether Elon is the guy that everyone thinks he is, like he does a lot of cool shit. I gotta give him that. And so it would be awesome. And then I guess on paper, technically the richest man in the world, if the richest man in the world goes full Bitcoin, like, I'll take back all the mean things I've ever said about Elon at this point. If he just goes full maxi, embraces it, shills it, I'll be nice to Elon. Okay. I am that superficial. If you embrace Bitcoin, hey, I may not necessarily like you. I don't have to be your friend, but I will talk nice about you. Okay. That's my views here.
And the dude's catching rockets in the ocean, right? Like there's, like that's pretty cool. Like I remember the first time I see those rockets flip upside down. I'm like, okay, we're in the future now. Like this is really cool.
I totally agree. Again, though, some of the edits do seem a little bit like CGI'd a little bit. I'm not going to lie. I look at some of that. I'm like, I don't know. This looks better than a movie, but it also kind of looks like a movie. I'm not a flat earther. I believe in space. Full disclosure. I'm a. What do you guys call me in the chat? I'm a glober. I believe in space. I'm a glober. All right. So full disclosure there, but it's badass. Like, again, if it's happening, it's badass. I've never seen one personally, so that'd be my take on all that. All right, let's hit one more commercial, and then we're going to talk about the Samourai Wallet Devs. What happened with their Bitcoin? I covered this. I believe it was on Monday. We got some more news on this, so we'll be right back, and we will chat about it.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, Ledin, the leader in Bitcoin-backed loans. Unlock the liquidity in your Bitcoin without having to sell your Bitcoin. They've issued $9 billion in loans to over 10,000 customers since 2018. I absolutely love these guys. Not only do I have an account with them, but I also have a loan. And what I love about them is that there are no monthly payments, and you could pay back the loan at any time. As soon as you send your Bitcoin as collateral, you'll have cash in your account within 24 hours. Over 1,000 five-star customer reviews, and they've never lost a single dollar or sat of customer money. Go to learn.ledin.io/simply today, and you'll get 0.25% off your first loan. I want to give a shout out to our partner, sat123.com. Sovereignty isn't just about your money, it's about your communications too. When the grid goes down, most people go dark. Cell towers fail in hurricanes, cyber attacks, and blackouts. But satellite phones? They don't rely on local infrastructure. Iridium has 77 satellites in orbit, giving you a direct line anywhere in the US, even offshore. If you hold your own Bitcoin keys, you should hold your own comms too. Sat123.com also has everything you need to start building your Bitcoin citadel. Starlink, battery backups, Faraday bags to protect your hardware wallets, and much, much more. It's a one-stop shop for anyone serious about resilience and off-grid independence. Stay connected, stay independent, stay sovereign. Go to sat123.com/simply today and use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on the store. I want to give a shout out to our partner, BitKey. If you already self-custody your Bitcoin, you know the deal with hardware wallets by now. Complex setups, clumsy interfaces, and a seed phrase that can be lost, stolen, or forgotten. BitKey fixes that. BitKey is a multi-sig hardware wallet built by the team behind Square and Cash App. It packs a cryptographic recovery system and built-in inheritance feature into an intuitive, easy-to-use wallet with no seed phrase to sweat over. It's simple, secure, self-custody without the stress. Time named BitKey one of the best inventions of 2024. Get 20% off at bitkey.world. That's BITKEY.world with the code SIMPLY.
Oh man, Conrad, I opened up a can of worms by talking about flat Earth, and apparently the official term is globetard. So I am a globetard. Yeah, a whole can of worms about moon landings and everything in the chat. Anyways, let's not get back into it. Here's today's news story. So Senator Lummis, in response to the Bitcoin Magazine article that they got, official exclusive rights to the court papers, essentially saying that when the Samourai Wallet Devs paid about $6 million in Bitcoin, that the U.S. Marshals, at the behest of the DOJ, sold that Bitcoin. Senator Lummis, the following day, responded to this, and here's her response to it. Of course, here's on DL News. Pro-crypto Senator Cynthia Lummis worried over government's reported Bitcoin sales. So that's, where do we go? Here we go. Here's Senator Lummis's tweet, and she goes, "Why is the U.S. government still liquidating Bitcoin when Trump explicitly directed these assets be preserved for our strategic Bitcoin reserve? We can't afford to squander these strategic assets while other nations are accumulating Bitcoin. I am deeply concerned about this report." Now, of course, Senator Lummis did announce that she's not going to run for re-election in 2027, so this could be Senator Lummis going just extremely hard before she's kind of, goes to whatever she wants to do next. Now, obviously, we talked about this on the show. I'm not going to rehash those conversations, but this report does offer a response from the U.S. Marshals. So, citing court documents Monday, again, Bitcoin Magazine reported that the U.S. Marshal Services appeared to have sold the $6.3 million worth of Bitcoin that the Samourai Wallet Devs paid the DOJ as part of their guilty plea. The magazine, of course, went on to say that they violated Executive Order 14233, which again mandates that they don't sell any Bitcoin that has been seized. Now, here's where it gets interesting. After the publication of this story, the United States Marshal Service told DL News that it, quote, has not sold the Bitcoin mentioned, and it has, quote, no idea how Bitcoin Magazine would get that information, but they did not fact check nor contact us for information. Again, quote, the U.S. Marshals cryptocurrency liquidations go through a multi-level approval process to ensure only forfeited digital assets that meet the requirements of Section D of Executive Order 14233 are disposed. So they're saying it was not fact checked, but again, when we covered this, it was pretty clear that the Bitcoin on that specific address ended up going to Coinbase. So at this point, it's like, okay, who's lying here? First of all, like I said, I find it interesting the U.S. Marshals like directly name Bitcoin Magazine. Like, yeah, who the fuck are these Bitcoin Magazine guys? I don't know where they got this information. Well, the information they had was literally court papers. So I don't know if this is the U.S. Marshals trying to save ass here because they got caught. Maybe they did something literally kind of trying to not follow the president's orders, and now that they got caught, they're like, oh shit, this is fake news. Though obviously they're not going to actually be able to get back that Bitcoin, though it does sound like a lot of bureaucracy. They're like, yeah, it goes through multi-level decisions to sell that Bitcoin. Though from the Bitcoin Magazine paper or report, it literally said like the DOJ told the U.S. Marshals to sell it and they sold it. So this is like the most recent update on this. Obviously, I'm biased here. I'll probably go with the official, court papers here saying that it sold. I'll go with the on-chain data that there's no Bitcoin in that address anymore, and it went to Coinbase, basically assuming it's been sold. I think the U.S. Marshals might be saving some ass here, but hey, what do I know? What do I know what goes on over there? So
best case scenario, best case scenario, it's like what they didn't sell it, but they're afraid to custody their own Bitcoin. Like, why would they need to send it to Coinbase if they aren't selling it? That just seems like there's a custodial issue.
Yeah, and further, it's not like the U.S. government, and you guys could fact check me, but as far as I remember, it's not like the U.S. government is using Coinbase to custody all of the, quote, strategic Bitcoin reserve that we currently do have. So that is like the big question. It's like, okay, if you didn't sell it, then why are you sending it to Coinbase? And why is there no Bitcoin left at all in these addresses? So look, I think the U.S. Marshals is trying to, save their own ass here. It seems like the DOJ told them to sell that Bitcoin, and now they got caught with their hand in the cookie jar, and they're like, actually, we didn't sell this. Don't fire us, Trump, because we are doing literally the opposite of what you're saying. Though, again, from a more hardcore Bitcoiner perspective, I'm kind of okay with government selling their Bitcoin to us, especially on discount. Like I'm totally okay with this at this point, especially if we can confirm now, and we haven't been able to confirm this yet. But if the reports are true, the U.S. government essentially now has potentially close to 1 million Bitcoin after this whole Venezuelan Bitcoin seizure, asset seizure protocol that we just saw recently. So I don't think they're really going to miss, I think it was something around like 53 Bitcoin. But if you're from Trump's perspective here, you want to be the Bitcoin superpower of the world. Every Bitcoin counts. As we like to say, every sat counts, which I think is a perfect segue, Conrad, to the culture, because we're going to be talking about DCAing and why this is the perfect time to set up a DCA. So last ad, and then we're going to just shoot the shit with our boy Conrad here from Bitcoinwell. So we'll be right back.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, HIVE Digital Technologies. Fueled by clean energy, HIVE has quadrupled its global Bitcoin mining footprint and channels that same scale into high-performance compute, where their AI cloud is now ranked #1 in the world for network performance. At HIVE, You've got dual engines, Bitcoin and AI humming, roaring, accelerating in unison. They're lean and mean, they're green and clean, and they're rewriting the playbook on sustainable digital infrastructure. You can catch the latest buzz at HIVE Digital Tech or at hivedigitaltech.com. I want to give a shout out to our partner, bitcoinben.io. If you're into freedom, Bitcoin, and building a real community, this is for you. Gain exclusive access to real-world, members-only, private clubs across the globe, featuring poker nights, expert-led classes, co-working spaces, educational meetups, live events, and more. Current locations include Sarasota, Nashville, Boston, Dallas, Las Vegas, and St. Louis, with new clubs launching soon in West Palm Beach, Scottsdale, Alabama, and beyond. Not to mention Bitcoin Ben's resorts in El Salvador. There's 3 of them, and they're absolutely beautiful. You'll also get access to the first fully backed Bitcoin bank with fiat ramps and savings accounts. It's called Private Key Bank. And you guessed it, it's based out of El Salvador. Go peer-to-peer with Bitcoin bulk buys. Tap into home equity for long-term Bitcoin growth. And join their exclusive mining pools if you're interested in mining. What are you waiting for? Head over to bitcoinben.io. Join today, where Bitcoin meets freedom.
Alrighty then, guys, we are back, and I am going to tell you guys, we are going to do a couple of Wishing Well set giveaways, so get your Lightning wallets ready. I am logged in, but before we do that, Conrad, you did want to give a special PSA here and rant about why you think DCA is so important, and it's the beginning of the year, and you did say, like, this is a better New Year's resolution than getting fit in the gym. Now, I might argue a little different. You should do both of these. You should be getting fit in the gym and do a DCA, but floors are your Conrad. What is this take here that they should set it up now for the beginning of the year?
Yeah, man. For the new year, ditch the trendy diets, ditch the fancy whatever you want. Ditch the subscriptions. The subscription that you want is a buying Bitcoin subscription. You want to automate your Bitcoin purchases. And a couple of notes on this. One thing I've seen with my Bitcoin DCAs over the last few months is it feels like I'm getting a raise. Every time the price of Bitcoin goes down and I'm buying, say, $100 of Bitcoin a paycheck, I'm getting more Bitcoin. That feels good. I think the best way that you want to be looking at Bitcoin is you want to have it in self-custody so you can guarantee that you own that Bitcoin and can use it now and into the future. But also, you just want the amount of Bitcoin you have to go up. You don't want to necessarily be thinking about a dollar value going up. So even if in theory my dollar value of my stack is going down as the price falls, I'm still having more Bitcoin because I'm buying constantly. And that also allows you to enjoy your life better. My first job in Bitcoin was as a trader for a company, and that is a pretty intense job. I did it afterwards as well for myself on the side, and that's a lot of work. And for a lot of people, I would argue the juice isn't worth the squeeze. Just automate your Bitcoin purchases. Don't think about it and just go and live your life. We spend so much time worrying about the cost of living, the cost of inflation, grocery store prices going up. We don't need to spend more time worrying about the cost of things. Just automate your Bitcoin purchases. The amount of Bitcoin you have is going to increase over time, and then you're going to be better because of it. You're going to have more Bitcoin in the future, and you're not going to be worrying and stressing about it. You're just fast tracking yourself to a better life in the future.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, Conrad, we were talking about this before the show, that the most successful people that we've met in Bitcoin, I mean, I don't know that many Bitcoin traders, but from my vantage point, most of them just bought Bitcoin, stored Bitcoin, and just continued this process over time. And this and the way I know that this works is because I did it for me, and it literally changed my life. And it didn't happen overnight. It was over, a couple of year time span. But it's so simple. Everyone likes to overcomplicate it. It's not sexy. It's not like, I'm a day trader, bro. I made this much money in an hour. It's like, look, just do what you have. Use the resources you have right now and make sure you're just accumulating more Bitcoin. And this is how you really, really succeed in Bitcoin. Again, it's just so simple that it's too complicated for most people. And it's just crazy that people don't do this. They buy it once and they're like, oh, it's going to $1 million. I'm going to be a gazillionaire. You're like, dude, just keep buying it. Just constantly buy Bitcoin. It's not that difficult.
And Saylor made this really great analogy equating Bitcoin with early Manhattan real estate in terms of the investment opportunity and the scarcity of that investment opportunity. And I think it's a great analogy, and it's one of the reasons because we have this incredible hindsight. We all know today Manhattan is like the epoch of finance. It's incredibly value dense, but that wasn't obviously always the case. But like New York and Manhattan became what it is today, and the argument is that Bitcoin will do that. So if Bitcoin will do that, as most of us understand, like, are you going to be like, we should follow the success of what those Manhattan real estate investors did, and they weren't day trading real estate properties. Like, they weren't day trading buildings. They were buying and accumulating and holding those buildings. And if anything, they would maybe, like mortgage out those buildings and get like maybe debt for those, so you can have some short-term spendable capital and keep your capital locked in, which also avoids you having a tax sale. So that's the way that you want to do it. Like, what makes Bitcoin special is that because it's so divisible, you can strategize your Bitcoin investment strategy the same way that a really rich person will. Like, the way that $100 million portfolio will look at their strategies, you can implement that same strategy because Bitcoin is perfectly scalable all the way down for you. And you can keep holding that on into the future. And once again, I love talking about it because it's so unique. It's free to hold Bitcoin. Your Bitcoin, your investment assets, your ETFs, they all have a fee when you're custodying them, on top of the risk of just holding them in a different custodian. So you can just get so much more value if you just hold and DCA your Bitcoin yourself.
Yeah, totally. Okay, let me pivot a bit. I did say I was going to give away sats, and I just noticed we do have some unclaimed sats here. So I'm going to start with unclaimed sats in the wishing well, and then we'll talk about the wishing well. I'll pull some up. So again, first come, first serve, 1,083 sats here. I'll leave this up for a moment. Apparently, we do the wishing well and no one claims it. So here's the unclaimed sats, first and foremost. I'll keep it here for a second. And on this note, while we're waiting here, Conrad, let's talk about, you were wanting to talk about the Bitcoinwell referrals here. And this will go into the next wishing well coin toss. It's perfectly aligned. So floor is yours. Hopefully people claim this, and I will spin up another toss into the well.
Yeah. So thanks, Opti. Bitcoinwell, like, we are a really unique firm because we are non-custodial by default. There is no custodial option. So that means if you're going to refer your friend, they have to have a Bitcoin wallet. And if they don't have one, we're going to need, we need our Bitcoiners to step up and help other folks learn self-custody. And because of that, there's a kind of ongoing relationship. I had a great friend, shout out to Corey from Ottawa, great Bitcoiner. And he kind of converted me from trying to orange pill folks to like plant orange seeds, and then you nurture those orange seeds over time. And that means that folks have an ongoing relationship with the folks that they're referring. And that is the way that our referral program is structured. It's not as simple. You get $10, they get $10, and like, so long, you don't really care about what happens to that Bitcoin, or your journey with them is over. Everyone's Bitcoin journey is essentially infinite. So when you refer somebody, you get an unlimited referral system. And how that works is every time someone you refer transacts, you get a kickback. And we're non-custodial, so we don't like hold that in an account balance. We send that directly to your Lightning wallet every single time. So, I refer a bunch of folks. They're on the DCA train, thank God. And every Friday I wake up to sats coming into my Lightning wallet. And I know not only am I getting a few more sats, but I know that Bitcoiners are getting more Bitcoin. They're leveling themselves up. They're getting more and more prepared for the future. And this unlimited referral program, everyone who's listening is going to be able to get 10% of the fee generated off of any transaction for folks to refer. And this counts for whales. So if you have an uncle that has a bunch of investment properties and they're not doing too great right now, and he doesn't like the headache of maintaining them and doing all that work, he can just sell that, buy Bitcoin, not have to worry about it. That Bitcoin's going to crush it in the future. He has no work and no costs in the short term. And every time that whale stacks, you're getting a massive kickback. So that's probably, in my opinion, like the best way to refer folks is to refer folks and get a constant kickback. And that's unlimited. There's no time expiry. So if you're referring whales today and that whale keeps purchasing for years, you're going to be earning for years. We want to mutually align our incentives so that we're all on the team to just spread Bitcoin into as many wallets as possible.
All right, you heard it here first, guys. Get your rich uncle to buy Bitcoin on the Bitcoinwell through your referral link, and every time he stacks sats, you get some sats too. It's genius. It's genius. Okay, I'm gonna keep the wishing well up for a little while, Conrad. I don't even know how many I've done. I've done like 3 or 4. So we're giving sats today. All right, it's the start of the new year. We're giving back. But you were telling me, and Adam actually did show me this like a long time ago. I think when you guys were kind of, first rolling it out. But the lightning swap feature, which I know isn't working right now for the US for, I would say legal reasons. But let's tell the people, and then also give us an ETA. Will we see, again, Conrad, I always say this to Adam, will we see the lightning swap feature come back to the only country that matters, aka the US?
So to answer your question right off the bat, yes, it is coming back. It is coming back soon. I'm a smooth brain. I'm not a technical guy, so I'm not building this product out right now, so I cannot give you a date, but it will be coming. And I love that you mentioned the product, because the swapper is my favorite product. So when I'm trying to help folks get onto team self-custody, one of the things I hear most from experienced Bitcoiners is they're talking about the UTXO problem, which for those who don't know is basically every time you send a transaction that counts as UTXO, the more of these batches of transactions you have, kind of like having $105 bills versus one $500 bill, it's going to cost you more money to move $105 bills around. Just do the way that Bitcoin works. So you want to have fewer, larger bills, so to say, of Bitcoin. And that's where custodial exchanges have offered help for Bitcoiners that value self-custody, but want to manage their UTXOs. What the Lightning and Swap tool allows you to do, and this is how I buy Bitcoin, is I buy Bitcoin directly onto the Lightning Network. I use Wallet Satoshi, show it to Wallet Satoshi. And what that allows me to do is receive sats onto my wallet every single time I'm buying. It could be $1 or $100, any amount I can buy, which I might not have been able to do if I'm doing on chain. Like, no one's going to be buying $5 worth of Bitcoin every day on chain, but you can do that through Bitcoinwell, and it goes to the Lightning Network, which allows you to avoid the UTXO issue. Now, when you have all these sats on the Lightning on your Lightning wallet, how do you get them on your cold storage device? What you do is you would send a Lightning outbound transaction to your Bitcoinwell account through the swapper, and there you'll also place your receiving address for your cold storage. We don't charge a single sat on this service. So if you send 500,000 sats from your Lightning wallet to be received on your cold storage device, you're going to get 500,000 sats on your cold storage device. We cover the swap fee, we cover the miner fee, because we want to help you consolidate your UTXOs and use self-custody. And this goes the other way. You can swap out from cold storage onto Lightning Network if you want to, use a bunch of your sats and, engage in a Bitcoin and circular economy, or just spread out some Bitcoin. So it goes both ways, and it's free. So it's absolutely my favorite way to buy Bitcoin. It will be available soon in the United States. And actually, speaking of which, I saw someone in chat asking about recurring buy in the United States. So we actually do have this product up. You have to do a little bit of a workaround, because for folks that are using our American product, we actually had a bit of a migration happening recently, which basically we brought the car into the shop and we're fixing everything up under the hood and make the engine way better, which allows you to buy more Bitcoin every month and have more reliable transactions. And the way that in the States, you can still buy Bitcoin through recurring buy is you go and you add dollars to your account balance. And then once those have been received, you go through the regular buy Bitcoin order form, and then you'll have an option to select your frequency. Upon selecting that, you choose daily, weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, whatever you want, and your destination address. Right now, that'll only be on chain because Lightning has temporarily been disabled. As you know, the car's in the shop, we're getting it back out on the road. But once it is, Lightning will be back up, swaps will be back up, and your purchase limits will be even higher. If you want to make really big purchases now, our OTC desk is still open. So anything above 50K, we can get that service for you right away.
Love it, dude. Love it. Okay. I'm going to do one more, guys, one more wishing well toss. And while I'm doing that, Conrad, and I know you probably don't have Adam's, go ahead here, but if possible, could we get some of the leaks or maybe some things you're working on for 2026 to make the user experience better? Is there anything you can tell to the audience right now about what you guys are doing in 2026?
Okay, so what I can for sure tell you right off the bat without getting into any trouble is that the goal of Bitcoinwell is to replace your bank with Bitcoin. We understand that your banking app makes it easy for you to do a lot of things like paying bills, spending, sending fiat to friends, and all these things. We want Bitcoinwell to be able to facilitate all those same kind of functionalities but just you have your Bitcoin in self-custody. And in Canada, we kind of have the recipe for this pretty baked in really good right now.
Yeah, the
I can
Canada
sell
features
Bitcoin.
are crazy. It works so well in Canada. I literally troll Adam. I'm like, bro, like, yeah, it sounds cool, Canada. But like, I want that here in the States. It's amazing.
Part of that is to do with Interact e-transfer. This is basically like if you had an institution that ran Venmo and it wasn't like a social media app at all, it was just purely for sending money around. That works super great in Canada. And that allows us to, like, I can create a private Bitcoin account, which means I'm not, having to do any KYC, and I can sell Bitcoin through that account and then send an e-transfer to a third-party recipient. And like, there's so many different ways like that. Like, I can pay bills with Bitcoin on chain or Lightning, which basically means now every merchant in the world accepts Bitcoin because everyone accepts Visa and MasterCard. So if they're not accepting sats at the desk, then I can just buy that with my credit card and pay my card off with my Bitcoin. These are features that are baked in Canada, and we'd love to bring them out into the States. And basically just continuing to level up that offering, making your Bitcoin more spendable, more usable, while still retaining the self-custody.
Yeah, that's the main hope here. It is interesting, and I've told Adam this, we've said this all the time about Bitcoinwell, that it's not easy building the platform that Bitcoinwell built because there is some friction point for new people. But that next step, just that one step of adding your Bitcoin wallet, it will save you a lot of headaches down the line. If Bitcoin's history has shown us anything, is that like the importance of the only North American exchange that sends Bitcoin directly to you, it can really save you a lot of headaches down the line. And I love the Lightning swap features, the fact you guys implemented Lightning last year. And I always tell Adam, I'm like, I'm really excited for what you guys are doing in Canada, but I really just I want it down here, man. If the audience could see how Bitcoinwell works in Canada, or rather the American audience here could see how it works in Canada, it's absolutely seamless. And I'm like, dude, I want that here, because that would blow, I think, most exchanges out of the water. But obviously, there's a lot of banking technical factors that we just don't have to make it work. But I know you guys are working on it. I know you're trying to make it as seamless as possible. So I'm excited for 2026. Now, Conrad, one last final message. The last thing you want to tell the people, it could be a 2-minute elevator pitch. It could be about Bitcoin, DCA, whatever you want to say. What is the final message you want to give to the audience?
Okay, there is no amount of sats. There's no threshold where it's like, oh, if I'm above this amount, then I should self-custody. You should always self-custody. When I've heard stories where, if folks remember the Quadriga CX exchange in Canada, I had folks that had a couple $1,000s on there, which, a lot of you listeners, a couple $1,000s might not be too much. Not that it's insignificant, but it's not like the greatest amount of money. But that was half a Bitcoin. And now you're like, oh, that's actually a lot of money. So that's the way that I think everyone needs to think about your Bitcoin. Like, you want to think about your Bitcoin and value it like it's worth, say, $10 million. Because if when that Bitcoin becomes worth $10 million, if you're not treating it like it's always been worth $10 million, you might not have it anymore. It may have been seized. It may have been on a wallet that you had no proper backups. Like, you don't have a steal seed backup. Maybe you had a house fire across this time. Just the other day, I was chatting with someone that super unfortunately, had a house fire. But on the fortunate side, their Bitcoin seed phrase was stamped on a seed plate, and they were able to recover it. All their Bitcoin is still in their possession. And that's the way that you need to protect your Bitcoin. Protect your Bitcoin for every scenario so that you can guarantee you have in the future. This isn't like, you don't want a 90% chance that your Bitcoin is going to exist in the future. This is all of your hard work consolidated into a money. You want to protect it. You don't want to wait until X amount of threshold of sats or X amount of threshold of dollars, because that day might come before you're ready. You want to be ready so that when the value is, you want to claim that value, you're actually able to.
Wait, Conrad, just to be clear, did we just get a double partnership endorsement there? The stamp seed was in the house when it burnt down, and he was able to recover the seed phrase?
Yep.
Wow.
Because it can survive the average house
heat.
temperature.
Yeah. I know they do that, but we have a literally the worst case scenario, but we have a live on the IRL version of this happening versus like a kind of a test experiment. So, man, shouts out to that guy. That's crazy.
And you can get seed plates through Bitcoinwell. So one of the things I didn't touch down on the referral program is that in addition to earning sats off of every single transaction, you get points for every person you refer. For example, this wishing well that you were playing earlier, that was redeeming 500 wishing well points. And any one of those tosses can be up to 1 million sats. But if you want to save and accumulate your points that you also earn for spending and selling Bitcoin on the platform, you can redeem those for a seed plate. We have them on the point store where you're able to literally redeem your proof of work, the proof of work and your spending and your referrals can be redeemed for a seed plate. It's about 12,000 points. And then you can ensure the legacy that your Bitcoin is actually going to be there in the future because you have it ultimately secured. And I mean, steel is one of man's greatest inventions. It's incredibly durable. That's the place that you should be storing your Bitcoin is in a seed phrase. And your wallet is just a usable mechanism. Ultimately, your seed plate is the blast line of defense that you need to make sure you have for your Bitcoin wallet.
Yeah, and to be clear though, it's titanium. It's not on steel. I think I don't know. I don't know the melting points, but I guess titanium's probably better. I don't know, whatever.
They use it in space, so it's gotta be good.
Well, again, if space is real, right? You know, we're globetards here, so you know, just you could give us the benefit of the doubt on that one. Anyways, Konrad, thank you so much for coming on. The audience loved you. We got to get you back on more often. But if people want to get in touch with you, where should they get in touch with you? On Twitter or just through Bitcoinwell? What's the best way for people to contact you?
Yeah, great question. So I'm on the Bitcoinwell Twitter account. We're just at Bitcoinwell. If you want to follow me specifically on Twitter, I'm a bit of a ghost. I'm more of a lurker than a poster. I usually use the Bitcoinwell account, but I'm BitcoinRad on Twitter. So that's BITKOINRAD. Yeah, you'll see me share and post about things. You may have seen me, be a bit of an econ nerd or nerd out about some things about Bitcoin that are kind of economic space. And I really like the mining aspect of Bitcoin. I think it's kind of like the skeleton of Bitcoin that we don't really see when we look at the surface, but it's actually what holds Bitcoin up. And so I love analyzing and looking and thinking about that space. But yeah, follow us on Bitcoinwell. If you haven't signed up for Bitcoinwell yet, definitely sign up. You got the Simply BTC link. Use that when you sign up. You'll get some bonus points, and then you'll be stacking Bitcoin to the best method possible, which is to self-custody.
Let's go. All right, Konrad, thank you so much. Let me pull you behind the scenes as I wrap up the show. Hang out, though, for a second. And sure. Thanks for coming on, man. You absolutely killed it. The whole Bitcoinwell team, when they come on, it's always you guys usually have like more energy than me, which is saying a lot. So thank you so much, Konrad. But hang out for a second as I wrap up today's show. All right, guys. Well, you already know the deal. We got one more show for the rest of this week. We will be back roughly 12:40-ish tomorrow. I don't know if you guys can tell, I'm still dying over here, dude. I can't hear out of my right ear right now. I'm still going through this cold, but I'm showing up tomorrow. And like I promised you, we're going to get Luke Mikic on with me tomorrow. So you already know it's going to be some bull sauce hopium filled Friday show for you. On that note, make sure you guys touch some grass. Make sure you get the sun on you. Eat some good food. Call your loved ones. All that good stuff. I will see you tomorrow. Peace out.
Today's episode was brought to you by Bitcoinwell.com, a Bitcoin-only platform on a mission to enable financial independence.